spa. Does anybody? Okay, that's really cool. That's really, really cool. Yeah, I mean, we never know. I mean, every time somebody new comes in, I always ask, how did you hear about us? And so social media is big. Social media is always really big. Word of mouth. We get a lot of word of mouth. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you. I'm not going to stand behind the podium because I'm very short. I'll just see my face. So again, my name is Claudia Posada. I do have all my notes. If I don't, I have my little bullet points that I want to go through. So I'm a nurse practitioner, mother, daughter, sister, friend, wife, and I'm the owner of Harlingen Rejuvenation and Wellness Center. So I was actually born and raised in Weslaco. I graduated from high school. Should I say the year that I graduated? I graduated high school in '97. And I went to, at the time it was Pan Am, but now it's UTRGV. And I graduated in 2001 with my nursing degree, a bachelor's degree. And then in 2008 is when I graduated with my master's. So I'm gonna switch. I think I have a clicker. Let's see. Okay. So I have a picture of my grandmother. I was raised by my grandma. I'm gonna cry already. I'm gonna cry already. She just recently passed away, but so I was raised by my grandmother. I have my mom, I have my parents, but my mom got married when I was 6 years old, and at that time, I guess I decided that I was going to live with my grandmother. So she had 5 kids, and so 4 girls, 1 boy, and she was actually divorced. So back then, you didn't hear a lot of older women being divorced, but she was divorced. And traditional Mexican woman that had to raise her children. Migrant workers. They'd go up north to California. So when you hear the stories every Sunday, we'd get together. We'd always hear stories about going to California, picking strawberries and stuff. I thankfully didn't have to do that, but my mom and my aunts did. She was divorced. Kim just said that. She started working. She started working at a factory in Weslaco. It's not there anymore, but it was McManus. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was McManus. It was a fruit factory. And so she worked there, and I remember them telling me that their Friday night dinners was going to Whataburger. So they would walk over there because she didn't drive. So at the time, my aunt, my oldest aunt, she was the one that would drive everybody around and stuff. And then she became a housekeeper at Nat Medical Center. So, and that's kind of when I was born. So I was born that age, in 1978. This is when she started working as a housekeeper, and I just remember her driving, not even driving, we lived literally like half a block away from Nat. So she would walk every day to work. So, with her uniform, her shift would change every once in a while, so she would leave either like 4 or 3 o'clock in the morning, come back at 1 o'clock p.m. And I remember her coming home or me waking up in the morning and having my breakfast made like in a saran wrap, and she'd always have it there. And I'd get dressed by myself. That's crazy because I have my kids, and I'm like, I used to do this alone all the time, Summers for me were like watching Young and the Restless, and then after Young and the Restless, I didn't know what to do. I'd stay outside and just get on the gate and just, and that's what I would do. But she was responsible for me. She did everything. We'd go close school shopping. Growing up before I had a driver's license, I mean, she didn't drive, but I'd get rides to school, I mean, if it was my neighbor or my aunt, somebody, and then I remember just waiting there, okay, it's 7:30, they should be here, and I'd get out and I'd go to school, but I'd get myself ready. Like, I was so young. I just think about my kids right now, and my 16-year-old, I'm still like, oh, did you get this? Did you get this? Did you get, and it's like, I did it all by myself. Let me see. So when I was maybe a freshman, I was about, no, I was younger than that. I probably was about 13 or 14. She was 62, I'll never forget. She learned how to drive. And she learned how to drive to take me to school. But yeah, she learned how to drive. And it's a funny story because she tells everybody, Sunday lunch, she'd be like, she'd already been driving for a while, and she's like, if you guys know Spanish, she's like, no, she got on the frontage road and y pues le di bien recio, le di al 45, you know, and so that was super fast for her, you know, but it worked for her at the time. It was perfect because at the time, you know, she would drop me off at school. She learned how to drive. She'd go to the groceries by herself on Sundays, I'll never forget. She'd just do little mandados, little, you know, errands that she had to do. And so it worked out. It worked out really good. She never drove to work because she just had to walk just from house to work. And so, she learned how to drive just from me. It's just crazy. Yep. So she retired at age 65, and she just couldn't do it. She just couldn't. She's one of the, and I see myself like that too. I mean, I tell people, I don't know what I don't think I could not ever work, you know. I think my best job for me would be one of those jobs that like, and I love my job. I love what I do. But you know, just when you wake up one morning and you're like, I don't feel like going to work today. And I'm not gonna go. And you don't go. That's like my ideal job, right? But we go to work every day. We have to go to work every day. So no, I just, she retired at 65. She couldn't do it, so she went back to work. In 1997, I don't remember who told me, but I think it was somebody, either the CEO or somebody, they reached out to me and they told me that year for the Christmas party, you know, like Valley Baptist had these big Christmas parties at Medical Center. She was gonna get the Employee of the Year for that year in 97. That was the year I graduated. So I remember that. I'm very emotional right now. But anyway, so that was that. So I was in 97. She retired at 75. So 97, how old was she? I don't know how old she was in 97, but she was already working. She had already retired once, got Employee of the Year, and then she retired again at 75. Was it 75? Yes, 75. So at 75, she retired again. And she just, you know, she didn't want to go to the daycares. She didn't want to go to the adult daycares because that was too much for her. No. And the reason, one of the biggest reasons why she didn't want to stop working is because, you know, she was taking medication. She's like, what am I going to do? I need insurance. I can't stop working because who's going to pay for my medications? And it was, she just fell into that gap where it was, you know, she didn't make enough money to get, you know, like, I guess, you know, public health or whatever. And she had so many things paid for. Like she had her house paid for, she had a car at the time, she had her funeral paid for, she had everything paid for. So she wasn't eligible for any assistance. And so she had to work. So a lot of the money that she had saved, I mean, I probably shouldn't even say this, right? But I mean, she had to take it out of the bank because, you know, that was the only way she could survive, you know, being retired. So anyway, so she's been my biggest hero. She did everything for me. And I just remember growing up, and I always compare myself to my kids, but you know, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd take a shower and I'd come back, my bed was made, food was made. I mean, I did not do anything at all, like nothing. I see my kids right now that, you know, they have chores, and I still have my girls, they have to make their beds, they have to do this, they have to do that. If they want something, they gotta do this. Like, I didn't have to do anything. I really didn't have to do anything, you know? And I guess if you look back, and I look at my mom now, and it's like she sees my girls and treats them so different than her own children, right? I think that's kind of how she was, right? I think that was grandma. And so grandma just, you know, I guess spoiled me, right? But see, now that I didn't feel spoiled because my friends growing up, and again, I had friends, and I was a cheerleader in high school, and so, you know, I feel like I had a lot of people coming over to the house, but she was very strict with me. I mean, like, very strict and very Mexican strict. Like, I will never forget, and I didn't even write this on my note, I'm just remembering right now. I'll never forget, I was in college. I was still living there, and I was wearing probably a skirt like this. but a really tight and, you know, shirt up here, crazy. And she looks at me and she's like, where are you going like that? In Spanish. And I'm like, no, and I had a cardigan, I think I had a sweater, but she knew what was under there. And I was with my friend, and she's like, tú te miras, ¿qué tienes puesto? In Spanish. And I said, you know, nothing, we're leaving. And of course it was like 9:30 at night. And then she's like, tú y tu amiga se miran con prostitutas, you know? And we never forget that story. So we say that even now. We say that, we get together and we say that now. We're like, oh my gosh, remember Grandma? Yes, I remember. She thought we were prostitutes. Yes, it's terrible. But I mean, she was very strict. And you know, and another time I'll never forget is I got home very late. And I got home and she was, and every time we get home, the lamp was on. I could tell through the window, you know, the curtains and stuff. If the lamp was on, she was waiting for me. If the lamp was off, she's pissed because she woke up and I'm not there. So this time the lamp was on and I'm like, okay, I'm good. And I walk in. At the time, were there phones? I'm not sure if there were phones. Probably, it was maybe like phones were already just coming in. And I get there and she's sitting on the couch and I'm like, oh, okay. And she has a belt in her hand. And she gets up and whatever, and I'm thinking like, whatever. And she's literally chasing me around the house with a belt. At the time, I was about in my 20s already, my early 20s. Well, I was still in college, so I was probably 19, 20. But she was very strict, very, very strict with me, but spoiled, I guess, right? So and you know, we're products of our upbringing, and I don't treat my children that way. Because I mean, it was different. I was raised by my grandmother. Now my kids have their mother, and there's 3 of them, so they all have chores. They all have to work for what's given to them, and for me it was very, very different. But I bring that, and what's instilled in me as far as the home goes is, you know, I lived in a very clean home. You know, it was very humble. It's a nice small little frame home, but I mean, it was clean all the time. My bed was made, you know, dishes were done, food was made, you know, I had shoes, I had clothes, I had everything. And with my girls, and I knew what it was to make $1 because my grandmother would share that with me. She was a housekeeper, and she was able to buy me things, not everything. And I would cry, throw fits, just like my kids. I would like, you know, my friends had everything and I didn't have anything. But I'm so glad for all of that because it just makes me who I am today. It really does. Make sure I talk everything. So growing up also, she made me become a candy striper. She was very strict, but I don't know if y'all know what candy stripers are. They don't even have them anymore, I don't think. But she made me be a candy striper, and I hated it, but I'm glad I did. It was this one summer, again, just because my summers were just me. But yeah, I remember just being there, and I wanted to be a doctor. I remember growing up, I wanted to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a nurse. I wanted to be a doctor. But so I thought, okay, well, I guess this is something that I'll do and I'll experience. And I talked to a couple of doctors, and they all knew my grandmother. She was the housekeeper, and they all kind of knew. She was just very personable, very talkative. I mean, she knew English, broken English, but she could get by. She could definitely get by. And so when I was a senior, I went into I got accepted to a program. I can't even remember what it was so long ago, but I think it was only 3 of us that got chosen to go to a conference in Houston, and we got to shadow doctors. It was like a weekend conference with students all over the United States, and I wanted to become an ER physician at the time, and we were able to shadow the physicians, and they told us like all the truth. They told us this is how it's going to be. This is how, you know, you're not going to have a life, and you're going to do this, that. And so I come back and I'm like, you know, no, I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to do that. And I remember my family fundraising for me. We did a barbecue and everything just to be able to afford to go to this trip for me. And I decided I didn't want to do that. It was a little disappointing, right? But I mean, I didn't want to be a doctor. And so, not that I would have gotten accepted right away. I'm an average student, but but you know, so then nursing became something that I wanted to do, and especially because growing up, we talk all the time. It was just her and I. We watched novelas, and I truly enjoyed that. I really enjoyed novelas. I would totally get into all those shows, and we would talk about her life and her struggles and what she what she wanted, and the biggest thing she told me was, and I share this with everybody, especially because now this talk is about empowering women, is that you need to get an education. She's like, look at me. She's like, you know, and not because you're better than the man. She's like, but if your husband dies, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Look at me, you know? And for her, the divorce wasn't because the divorce is now. And I am divorced too, but it's not a divorce the way it was, you know, the way it is now. It was very different then. Men, I guess, back then they could do whatever they want. They could have families over here. They could have, yeah, like that kind of thing. So that kind of just fell into her lap, and she's like, look at me, I wasn't working, and I had to work, and I had to do this. This is my life now, and so she's like, I don't want that for you. You need to get an education, because if something happens, not that this is gonna happen to you, but you know, you need to be able to take care of yourself. Don't rely on anyone. Don't ever rely on anyone. You need to be able to rely on yourself. And so that just big in me, you know, and it might even be a bad thing sometimes, I tell people, because I mean, I've had relationships where I'm just like, I don't need you. Screw you. I can do whatever I want, you know, and that can be a bad thing for relationships, because I mean, you know, you need each other, you know, the man and the woman do need each other, but I just was instilled in me so much that I needed to do this. And so when I graduated high school, I talked to kids, and I talked to my brothers. I have 2 half brothers on my mom's side, and you know, to me, there was no choice. I remember thinking when I graduated high school, why is everybody so excited? Like, I still have 4 more years of school. Like, you know, it's like this is supposed to be like oh great, you're done with high school, we're done, and whatever. I'm like, no, I still have 4 more years. What is this, you know? Because I didn't feel like I had a choice. I felt like this is your path, and this is what you're gonna do, and that's it, you know? And so I just attribute all of that, you know, to her, because I look back and I don't consider myself having a terrible life, but I always wanted that, you know, traditional mom, dad, you know, brother, sister life, and I didn't. And I feel like I've fulfilled her dream, because that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to become a nurse. That's why she was, I mean, first I wanted to be a doctor, but she always said she's always wanted to be a nurse and this and that, and she couldn't because of, you know, her upbringing. And she's originally from Mexico City. She came here when she was 13. She was the youngest of 4 girls. And so I just feel like she's been the backbone to everything that I've done. So that's my life with her, and I feel like that's who she is, why I am here today. I am here to fulfill her dream. I am, and thankfully, before I'm going to talk about, you know, our spa and everything, and the business. But she was able to experience all of this with me. So she was able to experience, and my sister and I were talking about it. So she was able to experience her biggest accomplishment in this. Yeah.
Awesome.
So she was 92 when she passed away. Crazy stuff. She was 92. And then she was just such a crazy thing. I don't think she was ready, but she had arthritis. She's always, and that's one of the biggest things with housekeeping. She's always had knee pain and all this stuff. So she's always on pain medication. And so what happened was, she was taking so much pain medication that it got to the point where constipation is a big side effect when you take pain medication. When she was around that time, and it just happened so quickly. And again, you think about the body, and so the body becomes very, very fragile. And so when you're constipated, it's very easy to obstruct. And so she had a bowel obstruction, so she had abdominal pain. Anyway, she ended up getting surgery, and everything went well. But again, 92, I mean, the body's not the way an 18-year-old body is, so she had to go back in because, it opened up. So she ended up having 3 surgeries, all through COVID, right? And they even tested her through COVID, and she did no COVID, nothing. I was able to FaceTime with her. I was one of the, and I'll never forget, they FaceTimed me, and when she saw me, and I was like, Grandma, and she's like, she was intubated, but she was like all excited to see me. But yeah, I mean, there's a limit to be in an intubation, you know, to be in the ICU. You can only be in there at least no longer than 2 weeks, because after 2 weeks, they have to disconnect. So she ended up getting kind of infected and septic, and so that's what happened. And so we kind of all prepared, and no, we had to bring her home. Nothing happened. We disconnected her, and we were all ready for her, and no, nothing happened, and then we're just like, guys, she's still here with us, and we're like, you know what? Maybe she wants to come home. Let's bring her home. So we brought her home. 2 days later, she's still with us. And I'm like, Grandma, what's going on, you know? But again, because she was just so healthy, she didn't have really anything. It was just a bowel obstruction that just kind of got her. And so, you know, I just feel like it was a terrible way to go, but, you know, life goes on. And I think that if she were here, she'd be extremely proud. But that's my story with my grandmother. So anyway, so we fast forward 2003, I get married. First time I have 3 kids. I have my first daughter, and we can switch it. I have my first daughter. And my grandmother at age 78 took care of her for 18 months. So she took care of her. I was doing home health at the time, so I was like back and forth, Harlingen, going to Weslaco to drop her off, picking her up in Weslaco. So 18 months, she did that. I had my second daughter, and she was already 80, and I thought, no, we can't do this anymore. She's 80 years old, no more. But I mean, it was terrible because she loved my girls, and she has a bunch of grandchildren, but mine were a little special. And my girls know that, they were a little special. So, the 3 beautiful girls, and so anyway, so she was able to see that I wanted to do something. I was working for an independent physician family practice, and my background is women's health. So I was a labor and delivery nurse when I first started. I worked at Valley Baptist. So women's health, I knew it. And so when I went to school for a nurse practitioner, it was a family certification. But in family, you can do everything. So I thought, when I finish, I'm gonna do women's health. That's what I'm gonna do, because that's what I know. And that's what we are. We're creatures of habit, right? I mean, that's what I know, that's what I do best, that's what I'm gonna do. I didn't wanna learn anything else. I just learned school because I needed to pass it, but I'm gonna do women's health. And so I did. The first year, I did OBGYN with an OB here. And then she stopped doing OB, so she didn't need me full-time. So she's like, you can go part-time. And I'm like, well, no, because I just bought a house, so I can't go part-time. And so I was kind of forced to do family practice, but my certification is family. And I'll never forget, I got hired into a small charity clinic in Santa Rosa. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was a Christus. It was through Christus Spawn. It was a Santa Rosa clinic. And my very first patient was a male with testicular pain. I'm like, oh my God. Coming from women's health, okay, that's all you know. All you know is women. And the very first patient that I have in family practice is a male with testicular pain. Oh my God. But it was actually a perfect job because, you know, it was slow enough that I was able to go back to my books and just look up all my information and all my stuff. But it was also busy enough that I was able to see so much. And I've never gone back to women's health because I fell in love with family practice. I loved it. You know, there was OB patients that were seen, and so I did all the prenatal care. So I did all of that. So I ended up doing family practice for a long time. It got to a point where, you know, there was no insurance available. I already had my 3 kids, and my neighbor at the time worked for the VA, and she's like, you know, we're hiring for a nurse practitioner over here, primary care. You know, you should apply. And I said, you know, I probably should, just because I need health insurance for my kids. And so I did. I applied, and I got the job at the VA, and it was horrible. I mean, no offense if anybody works at the VA, no offense, or veterans, because I learned a lot at the VA, and I loved all the veterans, and I loved the people. I just did not like the system. I felt very, very sheltered. I felt like everything was just very military type, just very like check off. I was only there just to refer, and I couldn't take care of patients. I felt like I was just in a little bubble. And I had a lot of my patients reach out to me through Messenger, through Facebook, and they're like, where are you? You know, and okay, then I'm gonna not go to that clinic anymore. I'm gonna find somebody else. And I mean, I felt bad, but they just really couldn't follow me at the VA. And so, and I was not very impressed with it. I mean, it was one of those jobs where you're driving to work and you're just mad and you're pissed. You're just like, oh, I have to be there at 8 o'clock, and and it was just terrible and very military. Like if you got there at 8:02, everybody's looking at you, And I always joke because I'm like, so, at the end it was from 8 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. And I swear at 4:29 my toe was like, I was like that. Like, I'm ready to get up at 4:30. Okay, I'm out. It was just like that. It was very, military. And so my ex-manager, who I worked with before, he's like, you really ought to open up your own clinic. He's like, you'd probably take half these patients with you. And I'm like, no, I know nothing about business. I know I would never do that. I never went into or furthered my education to go into business. That was never my intention. But he just kind of planted a seed, right, in my brain. And before that, we had a lot of nursing students, follow us, preceptors and medical assistant students. And I would always talk to them and say, if you just think about it, I should do this. I should go back to nursing, or I need to go do my bachelor's. Do it, because the time's never going to be right. Time's going to go by anyway, right? So you'll wait 2 years, and then 2 years later, you're going to think, I should have done it then, because now things are happening. So I always said that to everybody, like, just do it. If it's in your mind, do it, because 50% of the things that we don't do in this life, we regret. I said that all the time. And so, he planted that seed, and I was like, should I do it? Should I do it? And I'm like, I say this to everybody, I'm just gonna try it. And so the next 6 months, I'd get on the computer and so what do I do? How do I start up this business? And I did family practice. So first thing I did was I got a tax ID number. I did that, and then I got a Medicare number, and then I got an Medicaid number, and all these steps that I probably don't even remember, but I did it. I don't even know how, but I did it. I looked it up, and I had some other nurse practitioner friends that had businesses that kind of helped a little bit. And so at the time still, I was, that was what, 6 months, and then the next 6 months, because I was at the VA for about 1.5 years. The last 6 months of the VA career, it was tough, because I had my girls, they were still young, and I was teaching at Gold's Gym, and I was an AM instructor, so I would teach at 5:15 in the morning every day, Monday through Friday. And then I would teach, and then I'd get home and get the girls ready, and then they'd go to school, and then I'd have to be at work all pissed off, trying to be there by 8, and then we had a 30-minute lunch, and then I left at 4:30, and I had 2 other people. My mom helped, and my ex-husband, I know he helped getting the girls. And I had to pick up my daughter. At 4:30, I would pick up my daughter. She was still in daycare, and I would drop her off at home, and then I'd go back to the clinic. I decided I'd open up a night clinic just to see how things went first, because I had to get an SBA loan, a small business loan, right, just to start it off. And so I did that. And one instance that I'll never forget is, and it makes me cry to this day. I picked up my daughter, my little one, at daycare, and I dropped her off at the house. And here comes my middle daughter. She's been in softball since she was 3. She's now 13, but at the time she was probably 8 or 9, I don't remember. And she comes out in her softball uniform and in her backpack. And I see her come out, and then all of a sudden I see a car behind me. I was parked in the carport, and there's a car behind me, and it was another parent, another mom. And she's picking her up. And I rolled down the window and said, Kara, I said, you have a softball game? And she's like, yeah, I have a softball game. And she goes in there, and then, the mom's like, oh, no, it's okay, I got her. And I didn't even know she had a softball game. I was like, I don't even know if I should do this. I cried, from there, going to work, to the clinic that I have now. I thought, is this even worth it? Is this even worth me missing out on my kids that I don't even know that they have a softball game? It's so sad. But I did it. I did it, and I did it for them. That's the only thing I could continue to tell myself, is that I was doing it for them. And it was just like a humbling experience. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this business? Am I selfish? I don't even know that my daughter had a softball game. And then that year too, my oldest daughter, she was it was the beginning of middle school, She was doing her speech drama debate. I swear, I don't even know how that year went with her. She did amazing, but I think back and she had her first out-of-state speech meet, and I was telling my sister the other day, I'm like, I don't even remember packing for her. I don't even know how she did it. Like she had a blazer and she had makeup and she had all this. I'm like, I don't even remember doing that. I think I did. I don't even know because I was doing so much at the time, you know. So it was tough. It was a rough 6 months because I wasn't present at all. And so finally, I thought, okay, this is it. 6 months is good. I think I'm gonna get patients. And at the time, I mean, and even now, you know, I didn't go into business wanting to make $1 million. I really didn't. I wanted it because I wanted to be able to be there for my kids, to make my own schedule, to be available for them, you know, and truly that's what matters to me is the life. Because the one thing I don't want to do is grow up, or not grow up. I am grown up. I still feel young, right? No. But the one thing I just don't want to do is that my kids grow up and then I don't even know what happened. You know, they're all out they're off, they're in college, and I'm like, when did this happen? Or was I, right? And so I don't want that. And so I do try to be present for them now, like 100% of the time. And so when I decided I was gonna stop with the VA and I went full time with just owning this business, the feeling that I got just to be in that long line to pick up my kids was was amazing. Like, I loved it. And we hear it all the time, like, oh, this line is terrible. But for me, it was like, this is such a blessing, right? Such a blessing for me to be here in line to pick up my kids and to be able to go to their awards and things like that. Funny story today, though. Dressed the way I am. My youngest daughter, Mom, you need to go to the thing. It's at 9 o'clock and you come to my school. And I'm like, okay. And I briefly kind of just saw a flyer, traveling through Texas, you know, traveling through Texas, and in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, okay, this little museum, maybe the kids are gonna do something. No, it was outside, it was PE, and I needed to walk laps with her. And I'm dressed the way I'm dressed, okay? And I'm like, oh my God. All the parents are there in tennis shoes and workout clothes, and I'm in my purse and I'm like this, and I'm like, Avery, you didn't tell me. But of course, me as a mom, like I had it here. It just didn't read the whole thing. It just said walking through Texas, you know, parents come and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna join her. And here I am in heels, and I walked 2 laps with her. I'm like, no, Avery, I'm done. Okay, this is it. I'm on this. But I did it. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just tell her that I'm here, and then I'll maybe have her mom go and walk with her. But no, I did it. It's just crazy. But anyway, those little things are the things that mean so much to me. And so that's why I went into business, to be able to do that. And plus I love what I do. So that was that. I think I went off topic, but anyway, that was that. So I started a business, and of course at the time it was Jensen Family Practice. It was very small, tiny 2 rooms. It was on Ed Care. I don't know if you guys ever went over, but it was literally 2 rooms with a little hallway divided. It was a bathroom, and so a small, tiny little lobby, and then me, my office, and that's where I saw patients. And so, I mean, I was able to make it like that. And then we moved, and I thought it was huge. We moved across La Playa, which is on 77, and 3 rooms. Now I have 3 huge rooms, you know. And so, and we've grown, and I've just been really blessed with everything. And now it's Harlingen Rejuvenation and Wellness Center. I have to thank my husband now. He owned the building, and he was able to provide a lot more too. And so my services, and we provide everything. I mean, now it's a full medical wellness clinic. So I still do what I do. We do labs, we take care of patients, we see sick visits, we do hormone therapy, we do IV shot. And that's one thing that I wanted to bring as a nurse practitioner. You know, I'm not a doctor, but there's a lot of family practice offices, and they all, I mean, and everybody needs a doctor. Everybody needs, you know, medical care. I wanted to provide something a little different. And for me, I the first thing I brought in was our IVs and our shot bar. And so I think that's kind of done very well for us. And most of my population is you guys, you know, you guys that come and see me. And I think a lot of it is the digital era that we know so much now, okay? If I give you a medication, you're gonna Google that. And you're gonna Google side effects, you know, in my husband's location, I mean, they're seniors. They don't necessarily know. They just say, oh, okay, sí, el doctor me dijo, me lo tengo que tomar, you know? And so they'll have to take whatever he takes. And for me, you guys want to know everything that I'm giving you. Or you don't want to take antibiotics, right? You don't want to do that. What can I do to make myself better? Oh, those IV therapy, I think I'm going to do that. That's going to boost my immune system. I want to do this naturally. So a lot of my patient population is you guys, and I love it because I get to spend time. My schedule is never 20 patients in the morning, 20 patients in the afternoon. It's very, very one-on-one. And I like to take my time, and Tashonda is my manager, and she knows that. It's been hard. I think she already knows. She takes her time. There's only a certain amount of patients in the mornings, certain amount in the afternoon, because it's not about, for me, it's not about the numbers and the money that comes in. It's what I love to do. And so I'm able to do that. And I'm also a fitness instructor, so I like to exercise. I think exercise is a necessity now. I tell my members, you know, we need to get to a point where exercise is not just to look good. Exercise is actually just to feel good, you know, to be able to walk and feel good and to be able to move and function. Because we do it in the beginning, we do it because we want to lose weight, and that's fine and that's perfect. We want to feel better. But truly, we need the exercise just to be able to function and to just feel good. And so we were able to bring that into the clinic, thankfully. So Valley Baptist closed, their fitness center closed, and then so they found us, and so now the instructors over here, they came over here, and so now we have a full fitness facility, and so it's a big wellness clinic. So we see patients, you know, we do sick visits, we do labs, we have laser hair removal, we have laser hair resurfacing, we make you feel good on the outside, you know, and on the inside with hormone replacement therapy, we do a lot of that, and we do, you know, the exercise. So it's just been a big blessing, and so that is my story.